I'm here with Denver Nuggets television play-by-play announcer and Olympic gold medalist Chris Marlowe. Thank you for taking some time to chat with me, Mr. Marlowe.
No, it's good to be on.
Thank you. All right. So this is your 17th year with the Denver Nuggets in altitude. I think that a big thought for a lot of us here in Denver that this is probably one of, if not the best Denver Nuggets team we have ever seen here in Denver. So my first question for you is, where does this team sit on your list of all-time Nuggets teams that you've seen?
Well, it's certainly one of the best. I would say the best team that I covered prior to this team, at least in terms of advancing in the playoffs, was the 2008 team. That was the team with Carmelo Anthony and Chauncey Billups and Nene and Glazer and all those guys. And they made it to the Western Conference Finals only to lose to the Lakers. There was also the 2012-2013 team coached by George Karl, which won 57 games, which was a franchise record. So they come to mind. However, they flamed out in the playoffs and lost in the first round to the Golden State Warriors. But I think this team certainly has as much potential as any team I've ever watched. They're big, they're strong, they're physical, they're athletic. They got a two-time MVP. They've got good coaching. Defense has improved. They have all the elements to go all the way and win a championship. The only thing they don't have is that cachet of already having won a championship. If they had won the championship last year, I would say, yeah, they were odds-on favorites this year to win again. But until they do it, kind of like the Avs last year, you weren't quite sure they were going to be able to win a championship until they did.
Yeah.
And once they did, now from now until 4 or 5 years, with all the guys they have, they're going to be a perennial favorite. So I think that's where the Nuggets are now. They're really, really good. How good? We're going to find out.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And as this kind of leading off of that, as we head into the playoffs here, what obviously you said this could be a championship team. So what is the ceiling for this group, and do you think the sentiment around the team is championship or bust this year?
I kind of hate the championship or bust, only because in the NBA and in most sports, there's only one team that's going to be happy at the end of the year.
Yes.
Every other team is going to be totally disappointed and totally frustrated by how things came out, no matter how far they got. So, I think the Nuggets, do they have a chance to go all the way? Yeah, I think they do. Could they possibly lose in the first round to Minnesota? Yeah, that's a possibility also. So I think this team has great potential. They've had a great regular season, first time ever in Nuggets NBA history that they've won the West. They did it in the ABA once or twice, but I really like the components of this team. I think they've got all the elements. Now the question is, can they put them all together at the right time?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's a perfect segue into Minnesota. After last night and the pretty much whooping that the Timberwolves put on the Thunder, the stage is set, and now we know that the Timberwolves are coming into Ball Arena to try and test this Nuggets team. So this offseason, they put together a few pieces, adding Gobert and him pairing up with Karl Anthony Towns just to try and stop Jokic. So,
well, it's interesting. I just got off a call with my partner and our producer, and my partner's obviously Scott Hastings, and he thinks that's exactly why Tim Connelly made the trade. Mm-hmm. He looked at the Western Conference, looked at Denver, and he said, we have to have somebody to deal with Nikola Jokic. Now, I'm not sure Rudy Gobert is that guy because Jokic has torched him in recent years, but normally they would have Gobert, they would have Towns, they would have Naz Reid, three bigs that could play against Nikola Jokic. Reid is out with a broken hand, but they have the size, they have the physicality. They're coming off a great win. They played really well last night, and it's going to be a challenge. It's kind of interesting. During the season series, the Nuggets won 2, Minnesota won 2. They both won their games at home, but the Nuggets played them 3 times on a back-to-back. So this is going to be different. Last game they played at Ball Arena, and the Nuggets crushed them. It was 146-112. So I think the Nuggets have some confidence, but so does Minnesota coming in, and it's going to be a really fascinating series considering that Tim Connelly's over there. and Chris Finch is over there, and Micah Nori, all ex-Denver, ex-Pats from the Denver Nuggets. So they know us well, and we know them well, and it'll be a fascinating series.
Absolutely. And that was something I was going to bring up. Over the last 2 years, the Nuggets are 3-5 against Minnesota. So that could be something that Minnesota is looking at, saying, "Oh, we know these guys, we have the upper hand on these guys," but that probably will not be the case.
Well, it's always about what are you doing for me now?
Absolutely.
If I'm the Nuggets, I take strength that we played them full strength the last game, not the last game of the season, but the last meeting between the two teams. We played them full strength and crushed them and beat them like a drum. So the Nuggets are healthy now. They're rested. They've had a week to tune up. Minnesota's coming off 2 games. They had a loss at the Lakers in overtime, then had to turn right around and play another game against OKC. Now they've got to travel to Denver, where they're going to be playing at altitude. I just think, the Nuggets, they have the leg up in this one. And quite frankly, if you want to win a championship, you've got to knock them out in 5 or 6 games or 4 games as quickly as you can. That's what a 1 seed does to an 8 seed. Yes. And I wouldn't be surprised if the Nuggets were able to sweep or beat them in 5. That would be my prediction on the series.
That would be awesome. And for the Nuggets, outside of Nikola Jokic, who is the Nuggets X factor for this playoff run that's going to determine how far they actually go?
Well, the guy I'm really looking forward to watching play is Aaron Gordon. Believe it or not, I think Nikola Jokic, he's going to be 26, 12, and 10. And I think Jamal Murray has proved in the past that he is a playoff monster. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope won a championship with the Lakers. I think, and Porter Jr., they're really no better shooter in the NBA. But I think Aaron Gordon, he kind of had a humdrum second half. Prior to the All-Star break, he was great. He hurt his shoulder. He missed 5 games. He came back. He just didn't have the pizzazz. We found out later that he's been dealing with kind of a popping rib that would fly out, and it was causing him a lot of pain. And he just didn't look like the Aaron Gordon who was an all-star caliber player. And I just think when you're dealing with Karl Anthony Towns and Gobert and Slow-Mo and some of the guys that Minnesota has, and going on to Phoenix and Durant and all those guys, Aaron Gordon has got to be playing with that fever and that verve that he had earlier in the year, where he's getting 5 or 6 dunks and he's smiling and he's having a good time. I just haven't seen that post All-Star break. Now, maybe he's healed up now and maybe he's feeling better, but I really think he's going to be the X factor. If Aaron Gordon plays like he did the first half of the season, I can really see the Nuggets doing a lot of damage in the playoffs and perhaps even getting into the NBA Finals.
Yes, sir. Well, now to talk a little bit about Jokic, he has missed a little time down the stretch with that right calf injury. Is that, from what you're hearing, is that injury serious, something to be worried about, or is it all good and that was just precaution to rest up a little bit?
I think it's a combination of all of what you just said. I think it's an issue. I don't think it's a big issue, but every year in the NBA, there's always one injury that is kind of the injury du jour, so to speak, and everybody's got calf injuries. Now, I should point out that Karl Anthony Towns missed like 45 games with a calf injury because, it hurt, apparently. And so Nikola's kind of been dealing with that. What I noticed in the last couple of weeks when Nikola would play a game, that he didn't quite have the lift that he has had. Now, he's not a great jumper, but in the last couple of weeks, he wasn't jumping high for rebounds. He was tipping rebounds out to guys like Porter and Murray. Guys were going over him to get rebounds. So let's hope that calf injury is not a big factor, that he's able to play at 100%. And when he's been healthy, he has completely ransacked the Minnesota Timberwolves. He's averaged a triple-double in the games this year. He's almost impossible to stop. Even with Rudy Gobert, Rudy's had some issues with Jokic stopping him. So I have no worries about him unless that calf turns out to be bothersome. I think he's going to have a great series.
Absolutely. And, this year's MVP race has been, it's gotten kind of ugly from a media standpoint with a lot of, just throwing shots out from both sides. And, from your standpoint, do you think, I know as Nuggets fans, most of us think that the Joker did everything he could and enough to win it again. Do you think he did enough to win it for a third time in a row? Or do
Yeah,
you think they give it to Embiid?
it's an interesting question. Someone asked me at the start of the year, "There's no way Jokic can win another MVP, can he?" And I would reply, "Yeah, there's an easy way. Just win the West. If the Nuggets are good enough to win the West, and Jokic puts up the numbers he's been, say he averages a triple double, yeah, he's got a really good chance." So that happened.
Yeah,
That happened. The Nuggets did win the West. He put up historic numbers, better numbers than he had last year. But now he's in a race with Joel Embiid. There's been some, untoward things said. There's been some campaigning. They brought the whole race factor in there because he's white. You're going to vote for him. I just thought that was, that was kind of unsavory the way this has gone down to the wire. The other thing I think, and maybe you'll agree with me, maybe you won't, is that they say, well, Jokic is great on offense, but he's not very good on defense. Well, I don't remember anybody saying anything about Steph Curry's defense when he won it twice.
Yeah.
I never heard a peep, anybody saying that James Harden was a great defensive player. He wasn't. He was a crummy defensive player, and he won the MVP. Russell Westbrook won the MVP, and he couldn't guard you or me. Yeah. So I think the whole thing about defense, I hope the thing, this race thing about the voters are white, I just think that's terrible. That being said, Joel Embiid's had a fantastic year. He's a great player.
Yes.
And if he gets it, it's not going to be a big shock. But I think Nicola's done enough. I wouldn't be surprised if he got it again. There are probably a lot of people that wanted to vote for Jokic but didn't want to say anything because it got so unsavory at the end. So we know that Jokic has had a great year. It's been an MVP caliber year. It's going to go down to those two. It might come down to a few votes, whether people vote for Jokic 1-2 or they put him fourth to try to derail his campaign. I guess we'll find out in about a month.
Absolutely. And last couple questions here. As you said earlier, your prediction for this first round is the Nuggets in 4 or 5 games. So after that, you're looking at the Clippers or the Suns, both of which, well, if you're a Nuggets fan, you're kind of hoping for the Clippers just because we have kind of owned them in the last 3 years since the bubble. But what is your pick for the NBA Finals? Who's coming out of the East, and how's this all going to wrap up?
Let's just start if the Nuggets are lucky enough to make it out of this round.
Yes.
Obviously, as you just said, they'll play the Clippers or Phoenix. The Nuggets beat them, swept the Clippers this season 4-0. They split with Phoenix. But the Nuggets in those last 2 games that they lost to the Suns didn't play their starting lineup. So I would actually like to play the Phoenix Suns in the next round, personally.
Yeah.
I think if you want to make a statement that you are a great team, you have to beat great teams on the way. And if the Nuggets can get by this round and play Phoenix and beat them, beat Durant, and then move on to the Western Conference Finals, who knows who that'll be by then. Could it be Golden State? Could it be the Lakers? Could it be Memphis? Could be, even Sacramento is good.
Yes.
So I want to play good teams. I want to beat good teams. If this Nuggets team is as good as we think it is, they can beat any team in the league. And then going on to the Eastern Conference, I would say Milwaukee is the favorite to come out, but it wouldn't surprise me if Boston or Philly, makes it to the Eastern Conference Finals. I don't think Cleveland's quite good enough or New York yet. So I think Milwaukee is coming out of the East. And if the Nuggets were to play Milwaukee, Milwaukee would have home court advantage. So that would be a big advantage for them. But that would be a fun series. Two great guys, Giannis and Joker, the last 4 MVPs battling. And we'd have to see how that all came out.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for taking time to shed a little light on this huge playoff run coming up for the Nuggets, and go Nuggets.
Well, thanks. It's great to be on your podcast. I
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Thank you.